Theresa May's attempt to get Parliament to agree to her Brexit deal suffered yet another major setback today after the Commons Speaker said he might stop the government from calling another meaningful vote. John Bercow told MPs he would not allow Theresa May to ask the Commons to vote a third time if the motion had not changed. The announcement took the government by surprise, and it means it's increasingly likely that Theresa May will ask this week's European summit for a long extension to Britain's exit date. Our political editor, Gary Gibbon, is here to explain. Gary.
Well, the idea behind this convention, that you don't just keep coming back and back with the same measure, is that the government is not meant to sort of browbeat the legislature, the MPs, into doing something they don't want to do. It's meant to listen to them, heed what they say. So the speakers upheld this convention. I think in the end, the government probably will find, think of all the clever people they employ in Whitehall, a way of working round this. What it might have the effect of doing is possibly meaning that the government, which probably hoped to have meaningful vote 3 this week, keeping meaningful vote 4 up their sleeve for next week. In case it failed this week, they might just have to wait and do meaningful vote 3 next week after the European Council summit. And that summit itself might give them something that they can wave at the Speaker and say, look, this is a bit different from what we did last time. But the government doesn't exactly know itself what it's going to do. They were surprised by this, bounced into this, and you can hear the immense sort of confusion that it's thrown into the political world by the very fact that there were ERG supporters, pro-Brexiteers, whistling the great escape in the tea room this afternoon, because they think it could mean no-deal Brexit, the thing that some of them want. And you can hear Remainers, who think the Speaker is secretly on their side, thinking, well, he's done us a favour. All you can say with absolute certainty is that it is added to the confusion and an uncertainty over Brexit, just when you might have thought that was impossible.
The phone lines from Westminster to Tory MPs in their constituencies ran hot through the weekend. Pressure applied and numbers tallied as the government desperately tried to win third time round.
Yes, it was lovely. Pretty much all the Cabinet phoned me on Sunday at one point or another. Some I answered the phone to, some I decided there wasn't any need to repeat the conversation again and again.
Just as that effort was struggling, enter stage left the Speaker. Today, he ruled the government couldn't just bring back its Brexit divorce deal for another vote. Historic precedent barred such browbeating of MPs.
Order. I wish to make a statement.
Something significant must have changed to justify another vote.
What the government cannot legitimately do is to resubmit to the House the same proposition, or substantially the same proposition, as that of last week, which was rejected by 149 votes.
There's no doubt now that even if members of Parliament wanted to coalesce around a consensus on a meaningful vote, it's going to be very difficult without change, and that frankly isn't helpful to the process of an orderly Brexit.
Last week, the Prime Minister lost her second attempt to get her Brexit divorce deal passed by 149. So she needs 75 converts to cross over to her side to win third time round. This weekend's calls were focused on the DUP's 10 MPs and the 75 Tories who voted against her. Even if she got the DUP on side, she might only get up to 40 pro-Brexit Tory MP rebels back right now, leaving her 25 MPs short of a majority, thanks to pro-Brexit Tory MPs and half a dozen pro-Remain ones too.
But the whips were on your case over the weekend.
Well, actually, it was number 10 who gave me the phone call. But, I mean, you know, I think they rang up knowing the answer. So I don't think I was put under. The thumb screws weren't applied.
And there's absolutely no way you're buckling. And you think there's probably half a dozen in your
On my side of things, there's a half a dozen. And I think that number may go up, it may not. It depends on the circumstances next week.
But you add that to the ERG hardcore and you think it's not going to pass.
I do not see the Labour rebels in numbers that would counteract the likely sort of combination of the ERG hardcore and ourselves.
Those under pressure to change sides seem to acknowledge the Speaker's point that a third meaningful vote wouldn't really be about a new deal.
At the moment, nothing has changed in terms of the withdrawal agreement, and for colleagues like myself, for whom it was always a terrible framework as it stood, that's still the case. Different cabinet ministers have different styles, but the message is always the same: is come on, let's just get it over with, let's get on with it.
There was bafflement among some EU leaders over the Speaker's ruling. Bafflement, too, that Theresa May seemed to carry on despite so many brutal setbacks.
Kijk, ik heb ook alle respect voor Theresa May. Ze doet me af en toe denken aan dat typetje uit Monty Python waar alle armen en benen af zijn en dan zegt tegen de tegenstander, let's call it a draw.
The Black Knight always triumphs! Have at you! Come on, then. All right, we'll call it a draw.
Well, we need to consider the Speaker's comments and look at that and obviously give it due consideration, and that's what we'll do.
The Brexit Secretary reacting to the Speaker landing another pile of pain in the government's in-tray, just when you might have thought it couldn't get worse.
Well, now joining us now from inside Parliament is the Conservative MP and member of the pro-Brexit European Research Group, Owen Paterson. Earlier today, he joined 22 other Tory MPs in writing a letter to the Daily Telegraph saying that no deal was still an option and that it would lead, in the end, to a better deal with the EU. So, Mr. Paterson, thank you for joining us. The Speaker's done you a favour, hasn't he? I mean, he's probably advanced the cause for you.
Hi, good evening. Yes, I'm delighted. It's very good news, this. I couldn't see the point in bringing back virtually identical text to the Commons to be defeated for yet another time, for the third time. We might have had a few people who might have voted for it, but there's still, I think, talking to MPs this morning, would have been a substantial majority. So I think we can now move on and grasp this opportunity. And as you touched on, the Prime Minister has a real chance to go to the Council on Thursday and make it very clear that the current law of the land, passed by an overwhelming majority of MPs, is that we will leave at 11 o'clock on the 29th of March, and that will deliver the promise to the 17.4 million voters in the referendum. It will deliver the promise to all those Conservative voters who supported their manifesto, which said we would honour leave by leaving the single market, leaving the customs union, and leaving the Court of Justice. And that would tie in with President Tusk's broad offer of March last year of a wide-ranging free trade agreement. And obviously we're very, very tight for time.
Mr. Paterson, in all candour, it would involve bringing back a whole lot of other things which have gone through, which you may not have liked, which could well pass.
I don't see why. We've got a strong hand. We can leave on the 29th. We save ourselves £39 billion, which is £64 million per constituency. And we are in a position to look the EU in the eye and say, right, let's go back to your offer of a wide-ranging free trade agreement, which Tusk made back in March. And obviously there isn't time to do that immediately, so you can use the proposals under the Malthouse Compromise to have stasis on tariffs and quotas and other areas.
You know Mrs May better than anybody, and you know that she would not tolerate a no-deal settlement. So she would have to go. You'd have to get rid of her, wouldn't you?
Well, we have this phrase no deal. It would be a managed world trade terms for probably quite a brief period, because the EU has
in all honesty, it would be a no deal. That's what you mean by a no deal.
It would be managed world trade terms, and under the compression, it would concentrate their minds remarkably, and they would rapidly discuss a free trade agreement, as was made clear when I saw Monsieur Barnier discussing the ERG paper on the Northern Ireland, Republic of Ireland border. It was quite clear in discussions with...
Whatever she brings back next week, you'll vote against it.
Let me finish the sentence. It was made very clear in those discussions that that free trade offer is very much there and can be picked up. And under the compression of shortage of time, make it very clear that we will leave, we will honour the promise to the 17.4 million people. That will bring them to the table. That is a fact. What are you going to do if we don't leave?
What are you going to do if we don't leave?
If we don't leave, this whole saga carries on and people would be dismayed. People come up to me on the tube, on the trains, saying, just get on with it. I talk to businesses, they are prepared, and they say there will be a wall of investment money once there is certainty.
Mr. Paterson, you know that business is absolutely horrified with what's going on today. A very prominent financial services outfit today declared that at least £6 billion worth of investment have gone abroad. The whole thing is a shambles, and it's a shambles of Parliament's making, and yours too.
I don't agree. I was run by a very successful businessman who has created hundreds of £1 million worth of wealth and tens of thousands of jobs, and he made it very clear to me that he, his colleagues, his suppliers and his customers were ready. They'd taken the necessary steps, and they said the worst thing facing them is uncertainty. The very worst thing this country wants is another 2 years of wrangling on this issue. We should leave on the 29th, as is the current law of the land, and negotiate a free trade agreement.
Very good of you to talk to us. Thank you very much indeed. Now, here with me now is the Conservative MP Rachel Maclean, who voted for Theresa May's deal last week. The Speaker has a point, doesn't he? I mean, voting again and again for and losing by massive majorities is absurd.
Oh yeah, I mean, technically the Speaker's absolutely correct on that. And I think actually this is quite helpful in one respect, because the government cannot bring back, as Mr Patterson said, the same vote. So something will have to change to unblock this logjam and actually deliver what voters want, which is certainty, and for us to get on with it.
So that job is going to fall to the capable hands of Stephen Barclay, who advocated what he had negotiated in Strasbourg and Brussels last week and then voted against it. Do you have confidence in him?
I do. I think he's doing
How can you have confidence?
Well, I think he's doing a very good job. What he voted against was not what he'd negotiated. It was just he voted against taking no deal off the table, and he voted against a second referendum. And that's fair enough, because he's
No. What he actually voted against was what he just advocated seconds before he went to vote.
Yeah, so he voted against, as I understand it, I haven't checked his record, I think he voted against extending Article 50, which is what I also voted against, and a number of us did, because we actually want to leave. We want to get out and deliver what people voted for, especially in my constituency. It's a very, very strong mandate for us to leave.
So you're afraid that what the Speaker has actually done is to advance the cause of the Remainers?
I think he's, in a sense, he's just increased the risk that either we end up with a very long extension or we do leave without a deal. So that's why you'll see people on both sides of this argument thinking it's good news. I guess I'm more in the middle of this argument. I want us to leave, but with the deal. And I think there is a good chance we will get the deal through next week.
So what do you say to your colleague Owen Paterson, who's just said he doesn't believe in a deal of any sort, he wants no deal?
Well, he's got very long-standing views and he's perfectly entitled to have them, and I have a difference of opinion to him. We all have different views as members of Parliament. We have to think about our constituents and the promises that we made and the issues that our businesses and citizens raise with us.
But you're members of the same party, and your party is in power, is in government, and is presiding over a total shambles. This is a complete shambles, one of the worst catastrophes, constitutional crisis that this country has faced since the Second World War.
It's incredibly difficult, of course it is. But this is a very divisive issue. It's dividing the country. It's dividing every political party. And, you know yourself that there are strongly held views. People like Mr Patterson's had them for many years, way before I was a Member of Parliament. People on the other side of the argument also have those strongly held views inside the same party. It would take the negotiation skills of a saint to try and bring all that together without this turmoil.